Hello everyone, today I'm bringing you a very special build. It's Ballista for the Marksman. As you guys know, I'm not the biggest minion player, but I heard a lot of people saying that they have trouble using this ability and scaling it properly and stuff. So I thought, you know what, I'll spend like a week or so working on the build and see what we can create. A lot of my research for this build is based on a build that Venus Hall did like a year ago. So this is kind of like an update and a refreshment on that build, since a lot of the things that made that build work got changed, nerfed, etc. So, you know, I feel like giving him credit since he is the original guy who made this ability work. But, well, this build is my take on it, and I hope you guys enjoy it. I'm gonna do a map so you guys see it in action, and hopefully you guys get an idea of how the build plays before we start talking about it. So let's do this echo really quick. We're at 200 corruption, just so you get an idea of what to expect. You can see the damage is just ridiculous, right? You just cast your ballistas, you get your mana, and you just create this kind of like feel of death and destruction around you. That it's pretty crazy actually. You can have up to 6 ballistas with my gear. If you don't have as much good gear as me, you might only be able to run 5, but it's not gonna be a big deal. You don't need to do what I'm doing, right? You could just run till the end, drop all your ballistas like this in like a kind of like a turret defense mechanism, and you can just see that, well, the build, the enemies can't even. I mean, the enemies didn't even have a chance, right? Alright, now that you guys have seen the build a bit, let's talk about it. Ballista is a really weird skill. The first thing that I'm gonna do is we need to understand how does Ballista work and how does Ballista scale. If we take a look at the tag of Ballista, this one right here, we're gonna see that it's a minion tag, right? And it has dexterity scaling, and we get damage and attack speed per dexterity. This is really important. This what basically this makes is that without dexterity and attack speed for ballistas, your ballistas will attack really slow. So it is really important to attack with to give them, you know, dexterity so they can attack this fast. And you know, if you have a lot of them, right, they will attack even faster, right? The A key, they will attack at once, and it just creates like this super crazy havoc destruction thingy where they're all hitting really hard. As you can see right now, they're hitting for like 20k, but you can make them hit even harder. How can we do that? If we take a look at this note here in Ballista, ballistas get damage modifiers that also apply to you at a 45% ratio. What this means, like for example, if we get stacks of sharpshooter, here is sharpshooter, and the bow mastery, this gives us bow damage and crit multiplier. So you're gonna see that if we cast now ballistas, now they're gonna hit harder. They're hitting for almost 30, right, etc. If we fully stack it, we fully stack or sharpshooter, you're gonna see that they're gonna get close to 40k, right, when they start hitting. If you do everything properly, you have perfect scenario, you have some shred in there, they will hit pretty high. So again, the initial damage is like 20k, you can get it up to 40 with shred and so on, right? You saw 37 there, whatever, right? So keep that in mind. Since we mentioned that ballistas get or damage, thanks to these points, they get or crit multiplier and or crit chance, and they scale with dexterity. What we're using for this build is a very interesting combo with Morning Frost and Atri Stand. The reason why these two items get along together so well is because this comes with cold and physical resistance. So you can see, you know, Morning Frost, if you have a lot of dexterity like me, it just means, you know, normally you would have a lot of resistances, right? With this bow you get up to 150 or something, and then when you put the boots, boom, everything evens out. and you still cap your resistances. My blessings are not perfect, right? I'm going for the physical resistance and stuff. So if I had perfect blessings, then it would be fixed. But I'm still working on that myself. So that is really important. Again, this bow is pretty good because you also get maximum ballista, right? Without it, we would only have 4 ballista, which is still good, you know. But obviously, if you can have 6, the better. So that's mainly why you use this bow. You could get more DPS with a crafted bow, but I think having the extra ballista, the resistances, and the mana is just really, really valuable. Plus the crit chance and and the bow physical damage. We also, if you can, you also want to get +2 ballista. Tier 6 is enough, like the one I have. Tier 6 is enough. Ideally, you want full HP, not dodge, but whatever, that's what I had. And if you can, you also want to get a +3 to ballista for the increased attack speed and the plus skills. You don't need it though. I have it because I have really good gear, but you don't need it. If you only had a +2 ballista, I would just say don't take this point and pretty much copy everything else. So the reason we're getting these points is we want to get the more attack speed and the more damage. This is really important for multiplicative damage. We want the crit chance. Again, our crit chance and our crit multi will get applied into our ballistas. So getting the blessing of crit multiplier, crafting crit multiplier on our relic or etc. Or getting crit multi on passives. All of this will help ballista. So it's like a weird thing where you're scaling minion things, dexterity, and also your crit and also your flat damage. It's a bit of a weird thing, but it works really well. I give them 2 peers. I think with 2 peers they feel really good. You don't need more. Again, if you didn't have a plus ballista, just take a point off here and put it somewhere else. This is pretty good. The extra projectiles, you take this point just to get there. The slow is pretty good for control, even though it doesn't proc often because it's only 15%. This extra projectile, it goes basically instead of 1, it shows 3. And when you're doing arenas and stuff, it's really, really nice because basically you get like a lot of AoE and they shoot so often and you have so many of them that it almost feels like you're always having a proc from one of your ballistas. Then you want the health and the duration because you want to get into the attack speed per hit and you want to get into the ballista gain frenzy. So you can see that ballista is there, but if I get nearby, they get frenzy and they attack even faster, right? You can see the frenzy there. So again, when you're playing this build, you kind of like want to stand near them, kind of like this in your smoke bomb with the crit. And you kind of like be moving around, stay, be careful. You have the shields, which is the luxury point that I mentioned it. This will aggro slightly mobs and it will also block projectiles and so on. So this is really good for defensive purposes. And yeah, the more they attack a boss or whatever, the faster they will ramp up their attack speed, which is really nice. For shift, really simple. We're stacking dexterity, and with this build has no sustain. So I'm running the sustain on dexterity. I'm running the cooldown resets in case I lose health. So if I get hit by a zealot or something in arena, I basically get double dash. We're getting the dodge on dexterity. We have so much dexterity that if you see incoming projectiles and you dash for a brief period, for a brief duration after you dash, you will be basically turbo dodging everything, which is pretty busted. You also get the movement speed, you get some mana, etc. And everything else doesn't really matter. You can put the remaining point wherever you want. I got it here just, in case I can apply some frailty or ailments or whatever. But you can do whatever. For Flurry, I'm using Flurry for mainly the attack speed and the mana gain. As you can see, when you cast your ballistas, your mana can go down pretty hard, even with mana regen, which we have 19 at the moment with 3 tier 5 mana regens on our gear and the passive mana regen on Marksman. But basically what this is really good is like with the current passives that I have, you basically just can sustain mana really, really fast. Flurry not only is really fast at getting mana, but it's also really fast because it has multiple hits at stacking sharpshooter. You can see when you shoot sharpshooter, like with a single hit, you can get multiple sharpshooter procs. You can see there. And the reason you want to get sharpshooter, which is this passive here, is because this will give you bow damage per stack. It's 25% per 10 stacks. So at 10 stacks you have 250%, and 45% of that goes to your ballistas. Same for the crit multiplier, you know, each on bow mastery gives you crit multiplier, and you know, this will also go to your ballistas. So again, this is pretty important. Again, the flat damage for the ballistas, all of the attack speed you can get because the ballistas actually get it, all the crit multi because the ballistas actually get it, all the dexterity, some defenses here and there, flat damage because ballistas get it, all the mana and mana regen we can get because we need a big mana pool so we can actually have enough mana to cast all ballistas, right? You can see 6 already took my entire pool. Yeah, that's pretty good. I mean, you will have all the planner, you know, then you will have a lot of crit chance, a bit of mana back, all of the defensive stat, the attack speed, the dexterity, etc. Right? You will have a build planner in the bottom. Then again, for flurry we just use that, for shift we use that. Smoke bomb, pretty straightforward. We get the crit chance. Again, right now we have 29 bow crit chance. If we like stack or crit chance thingy, we go up to 35. And if we shoot on smoke screen, we're at 78. So all of this crit goes 100% to our ballistas. So even though we're not crafting any crit on our build, and because our ballistas actually have some flat crit to begin with, ballistas basically will get, if you are on the smoke screen and you have your passive going, your ballistas will basically crit all the time. You can just see it's basically almost 100% crit. Then you also get a bit of the defenses, Dark Shroud, since we have a bit of dodge, a bit of dexterity. While you actually sit in the Dark Shroud, you can see your dodge kind of like goes up a bit. You know, it's a bit more of a defense. Your glancing blow will also go up a bit. So defense, again, it's not gonna be massive, but whatever. You get the slow to get some peel. You get the duration, so you get crit chance as long as possible, and you get the silver shroud, so you get the the guaranteed dodge. And then for decoy, you can kind of like experiment. How do you like your decoy? I like having 2 charges, and I like going for the max duration here. I think the max duration is pretty fucking nice, just because, which by the way, I'm gonna take a point here, and I'll put it here. Sorry, I was like experimenting a bit. I like the max duration because basically with this build, when you have your ballistas up, and you have like, you're in arena or whatever, and you have one of those new enemies that dash at you, it's really important to use decoy, and for the decoy to be alive enough for you to kind of like rebuild your little base, right? It's a bit like terror defense. So if you see, like, let's just say you have your encampment, like your encampment like this, right? And you're attacking, your ballistas are attacking, oh, okay, really good, right? It's all good. And then suddenly you get a siege golem or something, and then you gotta leave, right? Because otherwise you're gonna take damage of the AoE. You can just throw a decoy, and by the time the decoy explodes, because you have the extra duration, you're already set, right? And you have your ballistas again going, and you're kind of like good to repeat your defensive formation, pretty much. So you can experiment with this. You could go with the haste also. So when you throw decoy at your feet, you get a bit of haste, and you like run. You can experiment a bit with it, but yeah. Again, for gear, pretty straightforward. You know, you want to cap your resistances, kind of like we build the bow mage, get our resistances, get our blessings, you know, with the lightning resistance, so we don't need to get any lightning resistance. Get your all resistances, get your physical resistance, so you don't have to gear too much towards resistances, and you free as much space in the gear as you can. Again, try to get a dead rattle for the crit multi. This is pretty massive. Or damage for idols, just get the bow, physical damage with the bow, critical strike chance. For the same reason, right? This is flat damage for the ballista, and is the crit chance from ourselves, which is applied to ballista. You can also get these ones that come with poison resistance. So you know you don't have to build poison res, and the other 2 I have are useless, the suffixes are useless. And then, you know, just use the little slots, you know, to cap whatever resistance you're missing. Fire resistance, whatever you're missing, you just put in there, okay? Then for the rings, you can just use minion rings, dexterity, mana regen, crit avoidance, whatever you need, right? Resistances, dexterity, minion damage, pretty straightforward. Get some cooldown if you can. My helmet is actually pretty good because it has tier 7 cold res, but you don't really need it. Again, if your gear is not as good, your dexterity will also not be as high. So obviously your resistance requirement won't be as high. So again, if you don't have really good gear, you're probably going to be looking at 50 dexterity. So you're not gonna need any exalted resistance or anything like that to actually run. And again, just dexterity, minion damage, whatever, you know. Pretty basic gear, pretty straightforward. You can get this really easily just by gambling a bit. My gear can still get a bit better, right? For belt, make sure you get mana regen and the cleanse on potion. Ideally, I want the armor belt, but I have this shitty belt. This belt is actually really old. This used to be dodge on potion. This belt used to have tier 5 dodge on potion, but it got converted to cleanse. You don't need a tier 5, you just need a tier 1, but this belt is pretty old. You just keep it in mind. And again, you know, try to get the +2 Ballista, the maximum Ballista, and keep in mind that those also scale attack speed, right? You can see they come with attack speed, so that will also make Ballista feel really smooth. One thing that is really important, I don't recommend leveling with this build. I wouldn't even bother. Like, if you don't have 50 dexterity, you don't have the bow, you don't have the amulet, you don't have a, don't even bother. Like, this gear is actually it's pretty important for the build to feel smooth and to feel good. So I wouldn't bother playing it without before you have some decent gear, which is not hard to get, right? Because most of it is just uniques that you might just have. I'm just gonna play like a fast arena so you can see how it actually performs in the arena and what I'm talking about, because this build is really good in the arena. And yeah, mainly you just sit on your corner and you watch everything die. Again, it's not really my kind of playstyle, but again, I see a lot of people talk about this ability being really underpowered or not being good enough, and it is an ability that feels horrible at level 1, right? If you don't have gear, if you don't have... But you know, some abilities are just like that. Some abilities are endgame. I already pushed this build up 300 waves or something in arena with the current mobs that are OP and stuff. So you know, if they nerf the mobs a bit, this build can probably go 400 in the arena. You can probably do infinite corruption just because of how safe it is. And again, you can just see, like, the enemies can't even get to me. Like, and we're at 100 arenas, we did 200 corruption, and yeah, it's just nuts. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed it. It's actually pretty fun to play, even though it looks really boring because you're just in a corner and stuff. Like setting up your ballistas, getting your mana, setting your decoy, making sure that your buffs are up. There's actually a lot of micro. And because they have uptime and stuff, it doesn't really feel like playing minions. It feels more like you're playing mines or traps from PoE or something like that. And well, if you enjoy this playstyle, I hope you enjoy the build. I'll probably try to push it a bit harder like this next couple of days just because my blessings are not perfect, and I would like to see exactly how good this is. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Again, you will have a planner in the description. You can find me live every day, so you can see me make these builds live. I basically grinded and farmed everything you've seen here, all the blessings, everything, on stream for the last week, basically. So you can see how you can take an ability that maybe doesn't look as good as, you know, you put it on, it doesn't look good, and then actually with some investment, some build planning and some just time effort, you can actually make it work. So well, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoy this, and bye bye.